meet everyone. This is Nia with the Rainbow Cauldron, and this is your weekly general reading for May 19th through the 25th, 2019. So if you're new to these, what I do is I draw one card from an oracle deck. This week it is the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit Oracle. And that will represent the general theme of the week, something to think about. And then I will pull 3 cards from a tarot deck. This week it is the Green Witch Tarot by Anne Mora. And that will represent the general flow of energy throughout the week. All right, let's get started. So we have the Vulture. All right, so as I've said with my previous videos using this deck, this is a very new deck for me, so I will be using the book, but before I read the book, I sort of want to get a feeling for what this card is giving off, what sort of energies it's giving off, what the artist and the author may be meant by this imagery. And so we've got the Vulture here, and the Vulture is, we tend to have a very negative view of the vulture and be very uncomfortable because it kind of reminds us of death, because vultures sort of watch over the dead because they're going to scavenge the dead. As with any of these cards, any oracle cards or tarot cards, just because the initial image is something that might be uncomfortable to us doesn't mean it's actually a negative thing. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the book says, the positive aspects of the vulture. And I sort of think of the vulture as like, a watchful eye. So maybe let's see what the book says about that. So this is an air card. It's represented by the upright triangle with the line through. Oh, and I opened right to the page here. All right, Vulture, Guardian, the first word there. Exactly what I was saying, where it's sort of that image of watching over. So, Guardian and Purifier. Essential for rebalance. Okay, so essential. Okay. The vulture is perhaps the most misunderstood creature of all. This intriguing bird balances our ecosystem and prevents the spread of disease. That is so true, and what a great way to look at the vulture card here. So it's like an energy that's uncomfortable, but it's needed. It does the dirty work that no one else wants to do and cleans up our messes. The vulture appears when there's a situation that needs to be purified or brought back into balance. Remember, the vulture is greatly undervalued. What you thought was a mistake or tragedy is a blessing in disguise. When in balance, it clarifies and reveals wisdom. When out of balance, it's dramatic and aggressive. To bring into balance, clean your space, sage. Okay, so very interesting interpretation of the vulture. It's like that necessary, I don't want to say evil, but like a necessary evil. It's energy that makes us uncomfortable, that we're not used to, that reminds us of things that maybe we don't need to think about, but are also a reality. And it's an energy that needs to be there. So it's kind of a harsh truth, and that's the energy we're getting, the theme for this week. So let's see what the tarot cards say and how they might interact with the vulture here. All right, so we have the sun. Very interesting. Like, the imagery is so opposite to this. Very interesting. Then we have the Knight of Athmes. There's that hard truth. Okay. And we have the Page of Athmes. So last week we also had 2 Athame cards at the end of the reading. And this week we also have the 2 Athame cards. And last week also we had the Stingray, which was sort of an energy of a sharp truth almost. So we're getting a continuation of last week, really. With the sun here, we're starting off with this doing what one wants instead of what it needs. With the sun, we're doing what we want really, and it's a very playful energy, and it's not necessarily what we need. But there's also an element to the sun that is enlightenment, clarity. So it's like we're aware of what needs to be, what we're aware of that truth, but we're still kind of in this playful place where we want to enjoy what we already have, and we don't really want to rock the boat. And then along comes the Knight of Athmes, and like I've said in previous videos, a suit card, like a knight or a queen, king, page, they tend to represent people in our lives, or attitudes or personalities, and that could be personalities that we're projecting, or it could be personalities and people that are in our lives. And with the Knight of Athmes here, we have someone who's bringing in information, rushing it in, and it's very blunt and matter of fact. Here's that information, and that may be initially causing one to be taken aback, but the person is convincing. The Knight of Athmes is a convincing voice. We know that what he's saying is the truth, and we see that here with the sun. We are enlightened to this truth. So here comes someone rushing in and giving us this truth, and basically we know he's right. We know that this person's right. But we still want to, with the page here, it's still like taking that information and trying to find out the truth of it all. Taking what he said, what our experiences are, and knowing that, that this is the truth, but sort of, gathering that information and really sending out sending out a guiding light. We got that moon here that we're trying to see the unseen here, because this is something we know. This is a truth we might not be comfortable with, but we know it's the truth. And part of what may be making us uncomfortable is that we're not completely sure if that's the whole truth. So the Page of Athmes here is taking that information and trying to find out a little bit more. Before we make that next step, before we do what is probably the right move for us, we really will just want to make sure. And that's what we got here with the Page of Athmes. All right, so thank you so much for joining. I hope this was an enlightened reading for you and helped us grapple with truths or information in our lives that we know is going to be helpful but may be uncomfortable for us, and seek out that information a little bit further and find what's hidden, find what's not being enlightened here. We got the sun here, enlightenment, truth, everything's out in the open, and we've got the moon, which is hidden and secretive. So there's the truth of it, which may be a hard truth, but it's truth we have to accept, but there's more to it that we need to look into. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week. Blessed be. Bye.